Beautiful. And once we're done with our first component, let me show you how we're gonna set up styles for the remaining of the project. Because writing them like this for each and every component is not very sustainable. Like I said, we'll spend way more time on styling than the actual project logic. And before I do that, let me just mention that it is still my preference to keep styles together with the logic in the component, because I found out that in the long run, it saves me time. Where if I want to change something about the component, everything is in the same place. But we cannot do this for this project, because then we would have to copy and paste pretty much the styles or write them together, which again, like I just said, is not very sustainable. So instead, what we can do, we can set up a separate component just for style component in a separate folder as a separate file. So how is that going to look like? Well, we can navigate to the assets. We're looking for wrappers here. And then inside of the wrappers, just create a new one. Just create a new file, and I'm going to call this testing.js. Then what you want to do is take everything from the landing as far as the wrapper is concerned. So take all this code, cut it out, set it back into the testing. Now you also won't need the style anymore here. So remove this one as well, the import, and you want to place it here in the testing one. And then what we want to do, we want to export this wrapper. Now, if you want, you can export it as name export, but in my case, I'm going to go with export default. And then I'm looking for the same name. So I'm going to go here with a wrapper. And then back in the landing, what we can do, we can just import the component. So we're not looking for styled, we're looking for styled component. So I'm going to go here with wrapper, and then we will go to assets, of course, then wrappers, and then we're looking for the testing one. And once we're done with the import, notice how still everything works. So nothing broke. Why? Well, because we simply set up the styles in a separate file. And if you take a look at the wrappers, the folder, what you'll notice there is the landing page. Look for this one and notice the landing page. And now take a look at the styles. So basically what's happening is that for every component, we'll have right away style setup. And the only thing we'll need to do is just import it. And again, it is my preference to call this wrapper. And therefore I went with wrappers. That's the folder name, because that signals to me that these are just going to be styled components. So these are not regular components, the React components. These are style components with all the styling. And again, the reason why we're doing that, so we can move on from component to component. And simply what you need to do is import a wrapper from the associating file in the actual wrappers, and then you'll have style setup. So what I want to do right now is just change this around, where instead of wrappers, I'm going to go with my landing page. Let's save it, and notice again, nothing changed because I have a wrapper and I'm just applying the styles. Now, if you want to be more explicit, you can add to all of them big sidebar wrapper or big sidebar style or whatever, things of that nature. But in my case, I thought that was an overkill. Just keep in mind one very, very important thing, something that I mentioned over here. The wrapper is only responsible for styling. So each and every time when we'll add the wrapper for the component, it doesn't apply any kind of logic. It just adds the style. And again, the reason why we're doing that is because I don't want to type out the CSS together for each and every component. Hopefully this is clear. And then starting with the next component, we'll simply grab the wrapper from associating file in the wrappers, and we'll right away apply the CSS. Now, if you are interested in the CSS that I was using, yes, definitely just navigate to the file and you'll see the logic that I applied for that specific component.